for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set!
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands, heard around the world, the iHeart Radio application. Well, heartbreaking. I don't think there's a better word for it. Clemson falls at the buzzer in overtime to Virginia Tech, 76-75. A three-pointer from the Hokies' Darius Maddox off the left wing, just over the top of the outstretched hands, or actually, if you look at the photo, way over the top of the outstretched hands of Alamir Dawes, sealed Clemson's fate, and the Virginia Tech Hokies advanced last night at the ACC Tournament. And the more I thought about it over the past, what feels like 24 hours now, or getting close to it, that game was like a microcosm of my life as a Clemson Tiger basketball fan. I mean, that game is essentially a season wrapped into one matchup. And I'll tell you what I mean. At the beginning, much like I said yesterday, I thought Clemson had a great chance to win that ball game. And typically at the beginning of a season, I have high hopes for the Clemson Tiger basketball team every year because I am a what's the old saying? People say they are a hopeless romantic. I am a hopeless optimist when it comes down to Clemson Tiger basketball, and I have been for years. And so every season I come in, no matter how bad the year was previously, no matter how bad the finish was, I come in with great optimism. I went into yesterday's game with great optimism, but I knew it would be tough. I knew it would be a daunting task. I did not think Clemson would just come in and walk away from Virginia Tech on a neutral court, but I thought they could win. And I think you saw that, right? You saw that this team could win that game. And so much like the beginning of the season, a lot of times Clemson maybe stumbles out of the gates early. And this Clemson Tiger team fell behind early to Virginia Tech. And at that point, much like in the season, you hold on to hope. You think, well, you know what? We're down, but we're not out. Then the Tigers continue to fight. And you're just thinking, man, you know what? If a game here, a game there, and in the game, you're thinking, if a play here, a play there goes our way, it's a completely different season. It has a completely different feeling. Then, much like this team this year, trailing 59-50 with 5 minutes and 10 seconds remaining, like Clemson did in the previous 5 ball games, they have a little run. Clemson won 5 consecutive games. And on the court in that 6th game, they went on a 14-2 run over the next 4 minutes to take the lead after a Nick Honor three-pointer. Then the Tigers, have some momentum. They have some plays that are drawn up very well late, some opportunities in the waning moments, including P.J. Hall hitting a 10-footer with 7.7 seconds left that sent the game to overtime. Clemson made their final 7 shots, folks, in regulation. They won their final 5 games heading into this matchup. It was a microcosm of the season. And then the Tigers, in the extra frame, get down by a few, battle back. I think they got down by 3 points twice. Battle back, took a 2-point lead with 30.4 seconds left. The two teams traded free throws. Virginia Tech took its ball out from underneath its own basket with 6.8 seconds remaining, trailing by 2. The Tigers missed free throws from PJ Hall and Alamir Dawes during those moments, leading to the 3-pointer from Maddox and the 1-point win by Virginia Tech. Now, what could have been different? What could have changed? We'll hear from Brad Brownell in just a few minutes. One thing I will say is that Alamir Dawes, being a smaller guard, I think has to force Maddox to give the ball up. And I know you don't want to foul, but I think you cannot give just token laissez-faire type pressure there. You got to get in a guy's grill. You got to make him make a play. You got to do whatever you can to waste the 6.8 that are on the clock. You can't just allow a guy to come right up the court. And instead, you saw that, and then you saw the 3 hit the bottom. You could feel it the whole way. And after it went in, that has pained me ever since. That has been my existence. That game is a microcosm, as I said earlier, of my life and every season as a Clemson Tiger fan. That is the sport. I was thinking about this too. It's incredible to me. Maybe because I tried to walk on to the basketball team and I was friends with so many of the basketball players during my time at Clemson. This is weird. Some of you are going to say, I don't even know how this is possible, Swanee. I take losses in basketball a lot worse than I take losses in football. I really do. This one pains me, and I haven't gotten over it. Clemson shot 28 of 60 from the field, including 8 3-pointers, and turned the ball over just 7 times in the 45-minute contest, but it was not enough as the Virginia Tech Hokies advance at the ACC Tournament. Here are some of the comments following the ball game from Brad Brownell, Hunter Tyson, and Naz Bohannon.
Obviously brutal ending. Just incredibly proud of the way our guys competed, not just tonight, but throughout the season. A lot of adversity, and our guys just kept getting better and being coachable and working through things. And we didn't play as well for a while tonight. I thought Virginia Tech was really good in the first half and controlled the game, but our guys just kept hanging in there and made some really good basketball plays. At the end of the game, I thought Naz and a group that was out there in the middle of the second half really energized us and gave us the chance to have a comeback. And then I thought my team played great. Into the game, overtime, I thought we, did most things well. But give Virginia Tech credit. Huge shot by Darius Maddox. They got a couple rebounds in the second half that hurt us, that led to points. But certainly this was, this is painful. I thought my guys played well enough at the end, especially to win. And, we didn't guard the last play very well. And it, they made a big shot. So congratulations to them. And,
Brad Brownell was also asked about the final defensive play. Again, as I said, just kind of watching it, I thought, man, you got to get a little more pressure on him. Alamir Dawes, undersized and a smaller player. You got to get in that guy's face, make him make a play, make him give the ball up, do something with it. Instead, he just allowed him to move right up the court. Here's Brad Brownell's response to that moment in the ball game.
Just he didn't pick the ball up early enough. He picked it up early enough, but he didn't stay into the ball. Obviously, we talked about no threes. If they go by us and they make a 2, that's fine, but we don't want any threes. We sandwiched the point guard to, try to take it out of the PG's hand. We kind of did that with Michael DeVoe a couple games ago against Georgia Tech, and it worked. Darius is not a guy who's a heavy dribble guy, so they threw it into Darius, and we picked him up, but we just kept backing up. We obviously talked about, hey, if they screen, we're switching. If they go screen, what we're doing, all these scenarios. At the end of the day, they just threw it to a guy, and he dribbled up and shot it over our guy. And, we needed to be a little tighter. And, we shouldn't have kept backing up and kind of let him walk into one. And to his credit, he made it.
As for Hunter Tyson and Naz Bohannon, they were asked about the opportunity to play at the Barclays Center, an NBA arena, and just what that experience was like for them to be able to get out there on the court and play in that type of venue in front of that environment. And again, it was a heartbreaking loss, no doubt about it. But here's what those two guys had to say about the opportunity to get out and play the game that they love in an arena like Barclays.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. We came here and, we had a pretty good plan, and we thought we were going to be able to go out and execute it and, hopefully be here for a long week. Obviously, it's heartbreaking seeing that shot go in, especially just because of how our guys fought, man. I'm so proud of my teammates. We never really stopped believing, and I think that's why we were able to force the game into overtime. Didn't go our way at the end, so that's pretty heartbreaking. But overall, the experience of just playing in, obviously, probably one of the best arenas in the world, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like Hunter said, outside the result, playing here, the experience and playing in this building and a game like that is feels surreal at moments. I came to Clemson for games like that and moments like these, and to have a chance fighting and to go win a game in March, that's exactly what I had expected, and it lived up to every part of it.
Again, those are the comments from Naz Bohannon and Hunter Tyson talking about Clemson's experience up at the Barclays Center at the ACC Tournament. They were knocked off a late game three-pointer by Virginia Tech, wins it at the buzzer in overtime. Coach Brownell was also asked about PJ Hall and his return and his fight, and you just know that he had to be struggling, but he was still out there giving everything he had until the final buzzer.
Yeah, tremendous character, toughness. He tweaked it a little bit, I guess, and sat him down, and, he was bugging me to go back in, and I wasn't going to put him back in for a while. I wanted him to calm down and kind of the emotion of it to get past a little bit. And then, I don't remember what minute mark it was, 12-minute mark, somewhere around that time, the trainer came to me and said, hey, he can go if you want to put him back in. And so, at some point we put him back in, and he tried to tough it out. You can say he wasn't moving quite as well, but, his performance down the stretch, the baskets that he made at the end were big time. We went to him and he delivered, and, on multiple occasions. And great job by our team of putting him in a good position. And then certainly he showed why he's a great player. He was able to make big shots, big scores under duress in the biggest time in a game. And, I'm really proud of him. And he's been showing a lot of fight all year, though. So we've seen that, and doesn't surprise me in the least.
The trio were also asked about just, their fight and getting back in that ball game and sort of what went into putting it together to give themselves a chance late to be able to have an opportunity to even force an overtime.
Coach, you want to start with that, and then we'll either
just that my guys in all the huddles, we were pretty good. It didn't happen right away. Like, we kept fighting, and the deficit didn't move for a while. And so you can get demoralized. And, we were having trouble getting stops in the game for a long time. But we just kept talking to our team, like, let's keep fighting. Like, it's still 11. I think we got it to 9, and Al got fouled on a play, I remember. And, hey, he makes 2, it's going to be 7. We've cut it by 4. There's plenty of time to go win the game. Just win the next play. And our guys just were very determined to stick it out and to just try to go win and put ourselves in a position. We just kept talking about put ourselves in a position with 4 minutes to go to win. And obviously we did that. So resiliency that our team showed, all year. But again, in this game, really proud of that.
As for postseason play, we still don't know what the situation will be for Clemson, but Brad Brownell was asked if indeed they were offered a chance to play in the NIT, if that would be something that they would entertain.
I would think so, yeah. I'd talk to my players, but I would think, yes, that would be something that we would want to do.
The final question for Brad Brownell dealt with what he saw from this team, maybe not just yesterday, but throughout the season, that gives him confidence that the program's headed in the right direction and that they can expect, some good things a year from today.
Just a lot. I think our team has just continued to improve throughout the course of the season. We've developed different guys while, PJ and Hunter were out, assimilating guys like Nas and David into our team and putting them in positions, I think, to be successful. The longer they've been with us, the better they've played. It's been a fun group to coach. These guys have worked really hard, and as a coach, that's what you want, a group of guys that gives you everything they have, are coachable and improves. And I think our team did that this year.
So there you go. All the comments from Brad Brownell as the Clemson Tigers come up short at the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. Clemson falls to Virginia Tech in the last moments, and it was a painful, painful ending. Here's what it sounded like last night on ESPN2.
Into Maddox. 3 seconds. Maddox wants to take the three. He drops it at the buzzer.
There it is. Maddox at the buzzer. Clemson falls 76-75. Will it be their final game of the season? We will see. I would not think at this point they've got enough juice, so to speak, in the orange to be able to qualify for the NIT. But you never know. Some teams could determine and decide that they don't want to play, and maybe that opens up some more opportunities on down the list for Clemson to slide right in. All that being said, as I mentioned out of the gates here, it is a microcosm of every season. That game, I think you could pretty much prepackage it or repackage it or whatever the terminology is and say, what does that remind you of? Like, if you could expand that, like if you could just expand that a little bit, think a little bit deeper about it. I go, man, that's like a season. That was like a season. You know what that is? That's like the weather in South Carolina. I mean, there are days that we have winter, spring, summer, and fall all in one. I mean, that was the Clemson basketball game. It had it all. It had, hopes, pain, resurgence, renewed hope, opportunity, heartbreak. And again, like I don't expect this Clemson Tiger team that we saw this year to go on and win the national title and make some epic run through the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. But I did believe that today they would be playing at the ACC Tournament, or this evening they would be playing at the ACC Tournament in that ball game that Virginia Tech will be playing in tonight against Notre Dame. I truly believe that. How about at the ACC Tournament? If you want to know what's going on, here's the latest updates for you. And yesterday, by the way, before I get to today's scores, let me give you the update on yesterday, because when we were on the air, the only game that we had in the books was Syracuse's annihilation of Florida State by 39. During the show, Boston College knocked off Wake Forest in overtime, right? So there was an overtime game that was a 5-point decision, BC over Wake. Then you had the Clemson game, which was an overtime game, a 1-point decision, 76-75. And then the Virginia-Louisville game was a 1-point game, 51-50, the final score in regulation. The Virginia Cavaliers moved on. Well, Syracuse's 39-point victory earned them a date with the Duke Blue Devils earlier today, and they didn't have Buddy Boeheim because Boeheim was suspended for a little dirty play, a little punch he threw. Duke knocks off Syracuse 88-79. The Blue Devils trailed by 4 points at the half. They outscore Syracuse 52-39, 52-39 in the second half of action to win that one. And at the ACC Tournament at last check, Miami was leading Boston College. We'll update you on that game as we move through the program. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line, be a part of the show that shakes the Southland anytime, any place, anywhere. We'll hit a quick break on the show that shakes the Southland. It is Clemson Sports Talk on a Thursday afternoon in Atlantic Coast Conference Basketball Tournament Thursday. And you remember this was at one time the play-in day. Like this was Florida State and Clemson for so many years. They would play in primetime to decide who was going to be the final entry into the ACC tournament. Not anymore. Now with 15 teams in the league instead of 9. You get a lot more basketball, and they culminate this thing now on Saturday instead of on Sunday. But, yeah, there is no doubt about it. Looking back at Clemson's loss to Virginia Tech, the Tigers had their opportunities, and free throws. End up being, and that's the other thing, right? Like we could talk about this feeling like the microcosm of a season, but how about the fact that once again, it was free throws that really left the opportunity out there on the table for Virginia Tech to hit a game-winning shot, not a game-tying shot, or even a shot that wouldn't have mattered. Man. 803-450-0086. That's the text line and the phone line. You want to call and complain and fuss or let us know your thoughts on the heartbreak. And am I wrong? I mean, I certainly can't be the only person that takes these losses tougher with basketball than you do with football. And I think part of that, the other side of that coin, has always been that Clemson football in my life, because I obviously didn't remember the 81 national championship, but I was old enough that growing up I knew it existed. And so I knew Clemson had been to the top of the mountain in that sport. And it was always a sport with great emphasis, unlike basketball, which I don't think has great emphasis. And I'm often critical of the fact of how much people just love Clemson baseball and don't tend to support Clemson basketball. But these losses in basketball, for me, for whatever reason, have always and fairly consistently have been much more difficult, a more bitter pill to swallow than any loss on the gridiron. You know, look, when Clemson gets beat by LSU in the national championship, yes, that's tough to get over. And you go, but you're hosting a radio show. You're not allowed to be a fan. Dude, again, anytime that happens, anytime somebody brings that up, my job here as a host on this show is only to give you my honest and humble opinions, not to, blow smoke or tell you things that I believe aren't true, or not to cover things squarely and fairly. I do all of that, but I also share my fandom with you. And everybody that's in this business roots and has interest in somebody out there. It just so happens that the team whose name is emblazoned on the front of this show, Clemson, is also the university I graduated from. But I feel an obligation to Tiger fans to be a voice for you and to give you real thoughts and insights into my into my thinking surrounding the issues, the ins and the outs of the program, etc. And so I can say without hesitation that these losses seem to be, for whatever reason, harder to get over than any. I think the other thing, too, is this. Like, in a season like this year in football, right, there's no playoff, not one that you're involved in. And there's no way once you've lost a few games, or maybe 3 games like Clemson has, that you're going to get into the playoff. And so very early on, hey, we're not going to win a national title. And you can look at this basketball team yesterday and say, Swanee, they weren't going to win a national title. I'd say, I agree with you. But you know what I always like about it? What I love about the way college basketball is set up? I mean, heck, I know there are people out there and coaches that have said, man, we need to expand this thing. I'm a 64 team guy. I know we've got 68. I refuse to acknowledge the first 4 games. the play-in games, if you will. I refuse still. It's a 64-team tournament in my eyes. But the reality is everybody, as long as you're not on probation, really does have a chance. I mean, their opportunities exist during their conference tournaments. And if you can play the role of the shocker, you can get into the NCAA tournament without having a great regular season. And if you can get into the NCAA tournament and you can win a couple of games, you can make it to the Sweet 16. You win a couple more, you can make it to the Final Four. You win a couple more, you can hoist a championship, and it doesn't matter how insignificant your regular season was. Like, there's that part of me too, I think, with basketball that makes a loss like last night linger, because I'm holding on to some small portion of hope that even though the season hasn't gone as expected, even though the year isn't playing out the way that I would have liked, that you still can make a run. And if you make a run, then all of a sudden you're in the NCAA tournament. And when you get into that scenario where it is win or go home, where it is survive and advance, your heart rate's up a little bit. In football, once you lose a couple games, you kind of know, we're out. And then you're just trying to get through the year. Again, part of the reason I would like to see the playoff expanded. I believe keeping more teams interested and fan bases interested is better for the sport. Yeah, but then you'll get teams in that don't deserve to be there. What is the NCAA tournament? Then a bunch of teams that are, well, let me rephrase it. Then you'll get teams in there that aren't going to win the championship. Well, what is the NCAA tournament other than a bunch of teams that aren't going to win the championship? As a matter of fact, 63 of them will not win. 67 if you want to go with the first four. 803-450-0086. But more teams are interested. More fans are tuned in right now at the back end of the season than there are in college football. Maybe not by sheer numbers, but interest has to be higher because everybody still has hope of getting into the NCAA tournament. With a break, stay with us for more of the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk, Fox Sports Radio 1400, the Midlands, around the world on the iHeart Radio application. Download it today. It is free. Our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. If you've never been over there, please take a minute, go check it out. Great recruiting article up right now for our premium subscribers. Well, how do you get to be a premium subscriber, you ask? Well, $63.17 for 1 year of coverage. And again, we are continuing to try to grow our coverage of your Clemson Tigers, and we are the only site that covers Clemson that has a 2-hour daily radio show for you as well. 803-450-0086. No Tim Beret in hour number 2. I know you guys are accustomed to Tim stepping in and hanging out with us, but Tim is still working for NBC Golf. I believe it's NBC Golf that he's working for, so he will not be with us this week. I believe he'll be back next week, which is a positive because everybody loves to hear what Tim Beret has to say about the goings-on in the world of the Clemson Tigers, and even in yesteryear, a lot of times when we talk with Tim about Clemson. But one of the things I do want to get into with you here today, well, real quick, before I do that, do want to let you know, instead of Tim Beret coming up in hour number 2, what we will have for you is Clemson head coach Dabo Sweeney's comments following practice yesterday up in Tiger Town. So Dabo Sweeney did get a chance to meet with the media right as we were coming off of the airwaves. So instead of Tim Beret in hour number 2, you can expect to hear some long-form comments from Clemson's head coach in what I think is being looked at by a lot of people as a bounce back year at this point, right? And so for Clemson, there's this, I think, thought process, perhaps from the national standpoint, that, 3 years ago, Clemson's playing for the national title. And then the following season, the COVID year, I think that might be the best name for it, during the COVID year, Clemson gets beat in the semifinals. So again, a back step, right? You go from the championship game to the semifinal game to being out of the playoffs on the outside looking in this season. And I think there are a fair amount of people out there looking at this Clemson Tiger team squarely in the face and saying, okay, prove it. Prove that you are still worthy of being one of those top 4 teams. And listen, if you think they can't fall off again and take another step backwards, you'd be sorely mistaken. But if what Dabo Sweeney had to say yesterday in regards to DJ Uiagalelei is any indication, if DJ is looking better, as Dabo Sweeney noted, I think he said he went 16 of 18, if my memory serves me correctly on that front, then perhaps Clemson's season a year ago was just an anomaly, just sort of an outside, an issue that you didn't expect, but it happened. But if not, if this year DJ looks out of sorts, if DJ doesn't look the part of a Heisman-worthy candidate, if last year was just a mulligan, you get that one back. Sorry, that was our bad, then yeah, I think Clemson can bounce right back and be in the playoffs again. And I think where they sit in the ACC is advantageous. I've said that for a long time. I think that, being in this league is a huge benefit for Clemson. But when you listen to Dabo Sweeney coming up in just a little bit, I think you'll hear some positive vibes that make you go, you know what? Maybe it's not so far-fetched to believe that your Tigers can be right back there in the mix again in 2022. 803-450-0086. And a lot of that, I think, will start up front. And, if you check the tapes, and the kids are going, what are tapes? But if you get the podcast of this show, or if you go over to our website right now and you listen to the interview with Nick Eason and you think about Wes Goodwin, as we talked about here on the program, and you hypothesize that making a move like Clemson did to put or to get Barrett Carter and Trenton Simpson on the field at the same time, like if you start to sort of put it all together in your brain, you go, you know what? It could be a good year. Because defensively, they're going to be very tough to score on, you would assume. And the offense just has to be slightly better. And it will be a significant improvement. Like if you go back, I think we were joking a couple of weeks ago when the Clemson Tiger baseball team scored 28 runs, about the fact that that was better than 7 Clemson football games a year ago. 7. The Tigers scored 3 against Georgia, 14 against Georgia Tech, 21 against NC State, 19 against Boston College, 17 against Syracuse, 17 against Pitt, and 20 against Iowa State. The baseball team scored 28 runs the other day. Like, if the football team can score, say, 30 points a game in those matchups where they were scoring 21, 17, whatever, you're going to have a completely different feeling about the teams because, one, you're blowing people out again, and two, you're finally feeling confident in the offense and what they can bring to the table. Like, that's the thing that I think everybody really felt like was missing a year ago. I think everybody knows that was the biggest problem for Clemson. And assuming that all gets straightened out and DJ plays like the way you expected DJ to play a year ago, I look, could they win a national title? Maybe. But you got to put them in the mix. You got to put them in the mix because of the league they play in. So we'll hear from Dabo Sweeney again coming up at the start of hour number 2. Make sure you hang out with us for that. That's going to be some really good stuff as we'll go long form with some of Dabo's comments yesterday from Tiger Town. 803-450-0086. We'll hit a quick break and bounce back with more updates from the ACC Tournament next. Rolling along on a chilly Thursday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland. Listen, we are on Twitter at Clemson Sports, nearly 25,000 followers. That's incredible. Cannot believe that. Also, our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. You can get there by going to ClemsonRadio.com, ClemsonTigerRadio.com, ClemsonSportsHQ.com as well. Go check that out. But up at the ACC Tournament today at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, a couple of games in the books already. Duke knocks off Syracuse in the first game. The number 7 Duke Blue Devils, 88-79 over Syracuse. Syracuse played without Buddy Boeheim, who was suspended for the ball game after he threw a punch to the gut of a Florida State player yesterday. Kind of funny, right? Like, Buddy Boeheim got a game for that, and then you go back to the situation with David Collins at Clemson getting only a game for his deal. Yeah, some blows may be worse than others, is the lesson that I learned there after watching those two things, because David Collins' incident, while I thought one game was a fair, I thought it probably could have been more, but one, okay. But man, when you see Buddy Boeheim get one for his, you go, Collins probably deserved 3. Like, that's how different it is. Now, I will say this in fairness to Collins. If you were to be willing to believe that Collins simply made a mistake and it was an accident, unlike Buddy Boeheim, which was certainly purposeful, then maybe that's the difference in these two. But one was much more severe in terms of what the outcome could have been for the player who was fouled or the player that was hit. So again, the Duke Blue Devils advancing in that one. The other matchup set forth coming up this evening in the Atlantic Coast Conference include tonight's matchup at 7 o'clock between the Virginia Tech Hokies and the number 2 seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That game can be found on ESPN2. And then the nightcap, the final game of the day at the ACC Tournament, Virginia taking on North Carolina. The Tar Heels are ranked 25th. That is a 9:30 start on ESPN. As for the Miami and Boston College game, those guys are going to overtime. So another overtime game in the Atlantic Coast Conference, 65-65. Miami had the ball with moments to go, the waning moments of action there in the second half of action, second half of play, I should say. And Boston College with a late opportunity after Miami couldn't get a shot up there. So, again, another overtime game at the ACC Tournament tonight. Virginia Tech at Notre Dame, Virginia Tech versus Notre Dame at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And then Virginia taking on North Carolina at 9:30 on ESPN. 803-450-0086 text line, phone line. Always appreciate each and every one of you being a part of the program. And again, we heard some comments from Brad Brownell following yesterday's disappointing defeat at the ACC Tournament out of the gates here. And we'll reset some of that for you on the show that shakes the Southland. Here's Brad Brownell's post-game comments following Clemson's loss yesterday, 76-75 to Virginia Tech.
Obviously brutal ending. Just incredibly proud of the way our guys competed, not just tonight, but throughout the season. A lot of adversity, and our guys just kept getting better and being coachable and working through things. And, we didn't play as well for a while tonight. I thought Virginia Tech was really good in the first half and controlled the game. But our guys just kept hanging in there and made some really good basketball plays. At the end of the game, I thought Nas and a group that was out there in the middle of the second half really energized us and gave us the chance to have a comeback. And then I thought my team played great. Into the game, overtime, I thought we, did most things well. But give Virginia Tech credit. Huge shot by Darius Maddox. They got a couple rebounds in the second half that hurt us. that led to points. But certainly this was, this is painful. I thought my guys played well enough at the end, especially to win. And, we didn't guard the last play very well. And it, they made a big shot. So congratulations to them. And,
there's no doubt brutal is the right word from Brad Brownell there. 803-450-0086 text line, phone line. Let us know your thoughts. What are you thinking as it pertains to this Clemson Tiger men's basketball team, the way the season played out? I know we've got our Kaufman's fan poll up over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com, simply asking the question, do you think there should be a coaching change? I certainly think the way you saw this team close this year, that the team still believes in Brad Brownell, even if you don't. I think you definitely saw that. The team is still, with Coach Brownell. And then ultimately, I go back to the stretch of games where Clemson lost. Or what was it, 10 out of 12 games they lost, but they were so competitive in so many different ways. And you just wonder if some of those games go differently, how is the complexion of this season for you? And I know you can't have it both ways, right? Like you can't say, well, if this, then that. But that sadly, at this point, is the reality. This team was close in a lot of games. And I have been I've been on the fire, the Brad Brownell train in the past. I am not there now, simply because I think the administration is going to do what they want to do, whether you, me, or anybody else says so. I don't think the commitment's nearly what it needs to be for basketball at Clemson. I've often noted that, but I think over the long haul, I think that continuity is a positive. I think we've learned that through years of change as the coaches have changed in Tigertown. And so continuity for me is a big positive. And if that means keeping Brad Brownell around just because it keeps continuity in the program, the question always has to be, who can you get that's better, not who could be worse. And that's what people go with, like, who can do worse. I want to know who can specifically be better. And I've always said you want to go younger if you're going to make a move like that anyway. And I think you go as young as possible, to be honest with you, if you do decide to make a move. With a quick break, we'll come back. Hour number 2, we'll hear from Dabo Sweeney and more right after this. Stay with us for more of the show that shakes the Southland.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you on a chilly Thursday. What happened, man? It's like 85 like 3 days ago. And then boom, we can't crack 65. I don't understand. I don't understand this weather in South Carolina. And I have lived here my entire life. I like when I was a kid, we used to, I don't know if we just lacked for space and we got more space now in these homes, but you would put up your winter clothes and you'd get out your summer clothes. And we kind of, I mean, my wife and I, we've never done that with our kids. Everything is everywhere. Sometimes I wish there was less, but everything is everywhere. But maybe because I was young and just dumb and didn't think and didn't, wasn't observant of the fact that maybe there were days I went to school in a sweatshirt when it was hot and shorts when it was cold. But I promise you, the weather in the state of South Carolina, if you tried to live like we used to, putting up your winter stuff and getting out your summer stuff, I don't know, man. The way it is now, I don't know if you can handle it. Because you'd be freezing one day when it's 51 degrees like it is today, and you'd be scorching the next when it's 85. 803-450-0086. Dabo Sweeney spoke with the media yesterday after practice, and he was asked about how his assessment of how things are going so far.
Well, day 5, it's been really good. We got faculty day tonight, so we got a lot of faculty out here, so looking forward to that. But it's been really good. We've stayed relatively healthy, which has been good. Today was kind of the first time we got into a little bit of live work, 5 days in, so it's good to see that. But a lot of competition, a lot of great energy. I love how the staff is settled in, and it's been good. We're getting done what we need to get done.
Sweeney was also asked about a couple of guys who were in yellow yesterday. Troy Stellato, the wide receiver, who I think a lot of people have high hopes for at some point in his career. He's been banged up through, I think, 2 seasons in Tiger Town, and then Jake Brenningstool as well.
He's been out since the first day. He pulled his hamstring. Brenny will be fine. He's got a little hip pointer. Hopefully he'll be ready to go by Friday.
Speaking of receivers, what's your assessment of Adam Randall so far?
It's been excellent. He just naturally does some things. First of all, physically, you can put him in an NFL locker room and he can fit right in. But then you realize he's just a young player. So, man, he made a couple plays today that were special, but just some little things, as far as just some technique and some release technique. And, just a lot coming at him with 5 days of installation, but he's exactly what we hoped he'd be. He's going to be a great one.
As I mentioned earlier in the program, Sweeney was also asked about DJ Uiagalelei and the way he's been playing, and Sweeney says he's carrying over a lot of the good things he was doing late in the season. Plus, let's not forget this too. Trimming down, I think that's really going to help him. I think there's a lot of benefits to it from a confidence standpoint, from an elusiveness standpoint, from a patience and poise in the pocket standpoint. How about that alliteration, Ms. Zidlick? How you like that? Here's Dabo Sweeney talking about DJ Uiagalelei.
Oh man, it's been great. Today was probably as good a practice as he's ever had at Clemson. I think he was 16 of 18 today. Just really, just kind of picked up where he left off. I thought he finished well from a confidence standpoint. He just looks great. The guys are doing a good job around him as well. Made some really good plays today. He's been excellent.
Dabo Sweeney post-practice yesterday, he was asked about Cade Klubnik and how Klubnik's developed so far and whether or not the freshman quarterback's been able to pick up some of the nuances of the playbook and how he compares to, say, a Deshawn Watson or a Trevor Lawrence before him.
Rinse and repeat. Same type of deal. Very, very sharp. Very sharp. He's getting a ton of work with the twos, and he's really responded well. He's just a natural. He's same thing. He's everything we thought he was. He has put on some weight since he got here already, bulked up. He's 180-something, upper 80s, close to 190. And, he'll easily probably be at 200 plus by the time we get to August. Very similar to Deshaun, I guess. If you took a picture of Deshaun Watson in January when he got here and put them side by side, they're like clones. Body types, you name it. Weight, the whole deal, kind of where their starting point is. So excited about where he is and how he's responded. It's been really good. We got that room is gotten healthy quick. We're in a much better spot than we were this time last year. Proud of Billy Wiles, man. He's a really good player. Hunter Helms, and then we got Hunter Johnson, still coming. So it's we're just got a good situation there.
So Sweeney there with the rinse and repeat line. Sometimes I wonder how he comes up with it. Now, Sweeney was also asked about the situation at running back, specifically a walk-on named Dominique Thomas, who the players have nicknamed Robert Newhouse because of how thick-legged he is in terms of being like 5'7", 5'8", 200 pounds. And Sweeney says, hey, he's a good football player, and he's got a great story.
Yeah, he's a great kid. We're really glad he's here. He's just one of those guys that had a dream, and he's chasing his dream. And we actually met him last year. He's just sat out and trained in the fall and hopes of getting into Clemson and coming and walking on here, again, chasing his dream. But unbelievable story. Great kid. But, think he was like the freshman of the year up there. Was college, Union College, I think what it was. And, tragic situation. Growing up in Alabama, we have a lot of tornadoes. And, it gets real when you've experienced. I've lived through a bunch of them and seen the devastation that comes from it. He lost his mom, his grandmother, grandfather, his sister survived. Just a really tragic situation. So we're really thankful to have him. It's nice to have a guy like that with some depth. That's played some college ball, and he's a load, man. I mean, he, as you would expect, he's got good instincts for the game. So we'll get Keith in here this summer. And, we've got 4 guys on scholarship. We usually like to keep 5, but with the addition of Dominique, I think he can be a good guy for us to give us some depth there. And Tristan Rigby's a great little walk-on as well. He's tough as nails. Kevin McNeil. So we got a good little group in there. Wise Seegers does a good job. So we've got some guys, but obviously Maffa is the man this spring, and he's really handled that well. He's looked very, very good. Really pleased with how he has stepped into that role, and it's going to be great for him because, like I said, he was the one guy that never really got a chance to kind of be the guy, and so with what he's getting exposed to this spring, I just think it's going to really serve us well when we get Kobe and Ship back. Got a chance to have a really special group.
Now, if you're wondering how Dabo Sweeney feels, the change that coordinators have, the difference that's made, maybe the progress and installs and all of that, is that significant given the fact that it's 2 guys who are already with the program, a guy in Wes Goodwin, who everybody essentially has called Brent Venable's right-hand man, and then, of course, Brandon Streeter, who's already working very closely with Tony Elliott. And Coach Sweeney said that, it's different, but there's still a lot the same.
I mean, it's similar. We're similar offensively, and defensively. We very similar. They both kind of put their stamp on it, their twist on it, but not too much different from an install standpoint. We've tweaked some things, and that's maybe slowed us down just a little bit because of some of the changes that we've made with the terminology and stuff like that. But pretty standard.
Sweeney was also asked about the situation at center. Obviously, the developments over the past couple of months with Hunter Rayburn giving up football and then Mason Trotter not being able to play for the majority of this season due to undisclosed reasons. Here is Sweeney giving you an idea of how he thinks Will Putnam has done in that capacity.
He's doing great. In fact, I just told the team that I only noticed him one time today, and that is a great thing. He had one bad snap. But again, this guy's never snapped. And now all of a sudden you get into something. It's one thing to be in shorts, thud practice. It's another thing when you're going live and you're running the outside zone, and you got to snap, and you got to climb and step. I mean, it's a different animal. And he's really doing a good job. Really proud of him. But again, he had one low snap all day, and I think he had 30 reps live. So he's really doing a good job. He's worked hard at it, which doesn't shock me. That's just how he's wired. That's his DNA. He commits to something, he's gonna be to the extreme of it. So and again, as he's reclassified, so he's just gonna be a junior. He's played a lot of football, so that's been really good. And Trent Howard's done a nice job. I'm pleased with where he is, and Lithgum's still coming. So we're developing the type of depth there that we need.
What do you want to see from Lithgum this spring?
Just play fast, play confident. Take a big step from a knowledge standpoint. I mean, that's really it. Just have a little bit more of a sense of urgency to him. The game is fast, so just see the game slow down a little bit as we keep going through. He's doing a good job. He's a physical kid. Really got he and Tristan. I'm super proud of Tristan Lee. That's a big shot in the arm for us right now because he was just Okay, it's gonna take a year on this one when he got here, and then you got to hope that they're willing to do what it takes. Because sometimes kids don't have a lot of self-awareness, and thankfully he's wired the right way. He's a grinder. He has worked his tail off. I mean, that kid's gotten stronger, and the game has slowed down. He's just improved the players we have on this team, and so I'm super excited about what he's done since the summer. He's playing faster, playing more confident. The game, like I said, the game slowed down. Now he's playing more physical, and just really doing a good job. So he redshirted he and Renfro, and we're both of them high level talents. So they're trending in the right direction. And then the two freshmen that just got here, same thing, Colin and Blake. They're both further along by far than where those two guys were. From a foundational standpoint, a technical standpoint, and a strength standpoint. Really, really strong kids.
The final thing we'll give you here is about Peyton Page from Greensboro, North Carolina. I think Dudley High School. Dabo Sweeney talked about the big defensive lineman and the job that he's done this year. And he's a kid, when you frame him up, you get around a guy like a Dexter Lawrence, right? That's rare. You get around a guy with the thickness that we see in, say, Tyler Davis. That's rare. And Peyton Page has that, right? Like, he doesn't have maybe the stature that you see from a guy like Dexter Lawrence, but he definitely has that same kind of build, that bowling ball build that Clemson's looking for, that Tyler Davis brings to the table. And Dabo Sweeney says, hey, look out, this guy's really starting to play well.
He's making a move. I don't know if y'all talk to Nick. Yeah. Nick probably bragged on him. He's really made some strides. He's gotten his body in a great spot. He's playing fast. He's playing with great technique. I mean, he shows up every day. That whole group, you just can't help but notice them. And it's been really good because we've been able to really kind of control the reps. We've got a lot of veteran guys. And, really, those four DNs kind of all just working with the ones because we really need to get Cade and Zaire and Swint, all that work with the twos, and getting Armand some work as well. And then inside, same thing. Tyler and Luke have played a lot of ball, and they're getting what they need. But, man, it's been awesome to see Peyton Page and see K Park coming on and E.T., how he finished last year. I mean, we're really developing the type of championship depth that you have to have.
So there you go. Just some comments from Dabo Sweeney yesterday up in Tiger Town. Again, some long-form comments, some great comments. I think some encouraging comments. Obviously, the situation at center is going to be one to keep your eyeballs on. I think, if you talk about Clemson's goal when they recruited Ryan Linthicum, it's for Linthicum to be a center. At this point, still hasn't developed to that degree. Still young, still maturing, still figuring out the game. As long as Will Putnam can sort of hold down the fort for a while, that'll give, I think, Linthicum even more time to develop. And over the long haul, I do think that job will be Linthicum's, not necessarily this year per se, but I think that you do look long-term at a guy like that being the answer down the road for Clemson. And yeah, they do look for versatility, but they also look for skill. And that's one of Linthicum's skills, much like Tristan Lee, who's probably going to be the backup left tackle this year, assuming that he doesn't have to pick up some starts due to an injury or whatever. The fact remains that you can recruit versatility, but you also have to incorporate talent and specialization. And it's great to have guys who can move around comfortably between interior offensive line spots and guys on the outside. But it's better, in my opinion, when you do have some specialization to those roles. And so with a guy like Linthicum, I think eventually that's the specialization. I think with Tristan Lee and maybe a Blake Miller, tight end, that's sort of their specialization. Excuse me, tackle. tackle. That's their specialization. And that's where those guys will really flourish over the long haul in their career. 803-450-0086 text line, phone line. Again, be a part of the show anytime, any place, anywhere. Also, I think it's interesting to imagine what this opportunity could be for Phil Maffa. Right? Like it was essentially, and Maffa was a serviceable guy this past year and had some flashes. But really, that offense at running back, once Lynn J. Dixon left, that offense came down to Kobe Pace and Will Shipley, and those two guys are on the shelf right now. And so that means Maffa's going to get the brunt of the opportunities. That means Maffa's going to get the chance to improve. And look, I think if anything, because of those two guys being out, you are enhancing an already strong running back room, because now you've got a guy in Phil Maffa who is going to be picking up on some experience. And plus, I'll add this. With Pace and Shipley out, those two guys really get a chance to be well-rested and healthy and hungry to get after it in the fall. So, positives, in my opinion, all the way around the board. And then for Dabo Sweeney to have such, quality comments about Cade Klubnik, the way he's seeing DJ play as well. Look, it cannot be understated how valuable that could be for Clemson as well on the gridiron in 2022. 803-450-0086. One former Tiger gives back to the Clemson community, while another former Tiger spent some time in the basement. Not the doghouse, the basement. And by the way, both former wide receivers as well. We'll give you a quick update on that. Plus, your Clemson Tiger baseball team moved to 12-0 with a victory yesterday at Fluor Field over the Michigan State Spartans. We'll give you the rundown of that and much more. Plus, we'll hear from Monty Lee and select players as well here on a Thursday afternoon. Stay with us. Last night over at Fluor Field, your Clemson Tigers delivered their 12th win of the season. They are undefeated still, 12-0, a 4-2 victory over Michigan State behind a couple of costly errors in the 8th inning. Clemson broke a 1-1 tie with 2 runs in the 8th to defeat Michigan State 4-2 at Fluor Field. The Tigers are now, again, 12-0. The Spartans 5-6. The Tigers are currently riding a 13-game winning streak. That is the 10th longest, or the tied for the 10th longest in school history, and their longest since back in 2006. Caden Grice lofted a run-scoring single in the 3rd inning to break the ice for the Clemson Tigers. After Billy Barlow faced the minimum through 4 2/3 inning, Jack Frank singled with 2 outs in the 5th inning and moved to second on an error and scored on Brian Brocker's single. After the Tigers loaded up the bases with no outs in the 8th inning, Max Wagner was hit by an 0-2 pitch with 1 out to give Clemson the 2-1 lead. And 2 batters later with 2 outs, the Tigers scored on the second error of the inning, this time after Jonathan French had a hit that ultimately doubled Clemson's lead. Another error in the 9th inning would lead to a Tiger run as well. Cooper Engel extended his hitting streak in the matchup to 12 games, and Jack Lindley, now 3-0 on the season, earned the win for Clemson. The Tigers will return home to face Northeastern in a 3-game series beginning on Friday at 4 o'clock on the ACC network. That's a Northeastern team, as well documented here on the show that shakes the Southland, a Northeastern team that swept NC State recently. Northeastern knocked off the Wolfpack 6-1, 8-5, and then 6-0 at Doak Field at Dale Park there in Raleigh, North Carolina. So no joke here coming into town is Northeastern. As for head coach Monty Lee, here are his comments following the 12-0 Tigers 4-2 win over Michigan State last night at Fluor Field in Greenville?
Well, we'll take ugly wins over beautiful losses any day. It's all about perspective. I thought we threw the ball very, very well. Billy Barlow was outstanding again. We gave them a run we picked the first and got the second in a base hit. And, all in all, I thought it was just a masterful job by our pitching staff again. Every guy that came in, I thought did a great job. It's great to see Jay Deal come in a high leverage situation there at the end. We felt like we needed to, Ammons threw twice last weekend. We didn't want to send him back out there for the night. We needed to see, what some other guys could do in that situation. And it's just great to see us pitch as well as we did. Offensively, we were not very good. I mean, we left way too many runners on base. They gave us a couple runs. We did not swing the bat well with runners in scoring position. We got to go back to the drawing board there a little bit and talk about that tomorrow a little bit. I was disappointed in how we swung the bats. But we pitched very, very well, and if we keep pitching like that, it's going to keep us in every game, and we found a way to win a game on the road.
I just went up there. My fastball was working along with my slider, and I just went up there and threw a lot of strikes. I know I got a very good defense behind me. As long as I fill up the strike zone, get some ground balls, pop-ups, I'm going to be good to go. So that was my game plan.
There you go. Some comments from Fluor Field last night following Clemson's 4-2 victory over the Michigan State Spartans at the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament as we bounce back to Brooklyn. The Barclays Center. Another last-second game. We mentioned earlier that Boston College and Miami went to overtime, and they nearly went to 2. Boston College had the ball in their hands late in the game. Shot was put up just off the backboard, maybe even hit the rim. With seconds dwindling down, Miami, it just happens to have a guy sort of cherry pick, as you might say. He kind of slips behind the defense, and a layup with 0.4 of a second remaining in the game, 71-69, as Charlie Moore found Jordan Miller for a layup, 0.4 left. Heartbreak today for Earl Grant and the Boston College Eagles. 71-69, the final score at the ACC tournament. And again, coming up tonight, a couple of ball games getting underway at 7 o'clock in Brooklyn, New York, as Virginia Tech and Notre Dame will square off on ESPN2 at the Barclays Center. And then Virginia and North Carolina will face off at 9:30 tonight. That game's on ESPN. So Miami and Duke have booked their spots in the semifinals of the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament, as the quarterfinals, the first half of the quarterfinals, are in the books. 803-450-0086, text line, phone line. Again, we appreciate you being a part of the program. And still, you talk about heartbreak. That, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you here. Watching that game conclude just a little bit ago, the way it did, it brought the pain back up that we experienced, or at least I experienced, and probably many of you Tiger fans experienced watching Clemson fall at the hands of Virginia Tech yesterday evening after a valiant effort by Clemson to fight and scrap and claw to get back in it, only to have things just ripped out, your heart ripped out. And that's the way Boston College fans have to feel when just a little bit ago, same thing happens to them, right? They fight and scratch and claw. They have the lead in overtime at one point, and then they have the ball in their hands in a tie ball game, and it looks like you're going to go to overtime, and the shot goes up, and then all of a sudden you've just got a guy that's leaked behind the defense, and it is a layup for the Miami Hurricanes to win it with 0.4. Like, at least in Clemson's stand, which is more painful. Now, I was going to say, at least losing like Clemson did, you go, man, well, they hit a lucky shot. I mean, the Miami guy hit a layup, but which is more painful? 3-pointer at the buzzer when you're up 2, or a tie ball game and you give up a layup with 0.4 left to lose? Both are equally painful. Both are equally painful. I think maybe getting the 3-point bomb after being up 2, because Clemson was in the lead. Virginia Tech wasn't in, or excuse me, Boston College wasn't in the lead. And they were in a tie game. So I'm going to go with Clemson's was more heartbreaking because you were up 2. I'm taking the 3 was more heartbreaking than the layup. Stay with us. Back at it on a Thursday. A couple of quick notes for you here on the show that shakes the Southland. Again, a brutal ending. Brad Brownell called Clemson's loss to Virginia Tech yesterday. We talked at length about that, but a couple of other stories that we did not get to yet that I mentioned earlier after we were talking, hearing from, I should say, Dabo Sweeney. Nuke Hopkins, former Clemson Tiger wide receiver, is giving back to his hometown community of Central. Nuke has recently donated some money for Central's new football mascot, according to the town Facebook page. The Central Academy of the Arts students had a contest to name the mascot, and it will be known as Claws. And it is a tiger-esque mascot, if you will. And you may recall, it wasn't all that long ago. I think it was Shaq Lawson that ended up donating some money for the scoreboard there for the for the Central Recreation Department. So Central, D.W. Daniel High School, all the players that have come through and gone on to the NFL, taking advantage of the opportunities to give back to their community and are doing so. And again, that's Nuke Hopkins who donated the money for this mascot costume. Again, I don't know what a mascot costume costs. My hunch is that it's at the max $2,000 and most likely somewhere in the $1,000 range. So a significant donation, yes. Significant by comparison to his salary, not really. But again, I think you have to appreciate these guys giving back to their community. And speaking of giving back, how about Dabo Sweeney giving back to the man that secured Clemson's first national title since 1981 with his touchdown reception against the Alabama Crimson Tide, Hunter Renfro. You say, well, what is Dabo Sweeney doing? Well, Renfro is back in Tiger Town and staying. He and his wife and child are staying at Dabo Sweeney's home. They're living in the basement, Sweeney said after practice. So a little interesting story on that front. He said that he and Hunter Renfro played basketball till 11 o'clock the other night. So Dabo Sweeney, again, giving Hunter Renfro a little place to hang out for a while he's in Tiger Town, and Renfro with a spectacular start to his pro career. Just a standout season a year ago with the Las Vegas Raiders. Renfro had 103 receptions for 1,038 yards, 9 touchdowns this year. So just a blossoming pro prospect is Hunter Renfro. And I can imagine that a lot of people would be happy or excited, maybe the better word. I think a lot of people will say, hey, you know what? Give me the opportunity to tune in and watch the Las Vegas Raiders play and Hunter Renfro, and I am all over it. I think he is they've got a lot of players on that team, including Cleveland Farrell, who was the 4th pick in the draft. But Hunter Renfro has become the name to tune into and watch. So incredibly, his career has, I think, surprised a lot of people. But there is no doubt about the fact that he's become sort of this, not just a Clemson legend, but because I think he's small and undersized, just one of these rare in the NFL, one of these rare white wide receivers that is found a niche in the way he runs routes and some of the things he does. Like when you think about the way he leverages guys. I mean, there were a couple of times this year where Hunter Renfro, one of the beautiful things that he does is clear space with his off arm while also avoiding contact by a contortionist, right? That's somebody that like bends their body. You know, he contorts his body so that you can't touch his chest, and yet in doing so is not losing speed, is not losing anything, and simply gaining and creating space by virtue of his innate ability to be elusive. And so, look, I don't know whether or not he'll rank among the Wes Welkers of the world at one day where people look back and go, God, that guy was slippery. But early on in his career, barring some unforeseen injuries, just given what Hunter Renfro does, it feels like this game this game that has become such an explosive ball game still has a spot for a guy who is just simply elusive. One other news note here from the former Clemson Tigers. Deshawn Watson's name back in the news, as it is said that tomorrow will be a pretty big day for Watson. He will plead the fifth in a deposition, and the grand jury decision could be forthcoming. Now, how this all plays out for Watson, I have no idea. I have said, look, man, if you, Watson would to me seem like a guy who, if he is innocent, is not going to admit guilt. And I don't blame him. If you are truly innocent of these charges and these accusations, then I would not admit it either. Especially if you're innocent, right? Like that, like people say, why didn't he just pay these ladies off? But if you're truly innocent, why would you want to admit guilt? His name's also been in the news, though, with the trade that I mentioned here on the program of Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. There are some conversations out there that the Seattle Seahawks might actually be interested in DW4's services, especially once his legal issues are cleaned up. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with that. The Panthers' name's also apparently in the mix. With a quick break, we'll come back with more. Final segment next.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Thursday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you. Got an update on some scheduling events, or some event schedules. Easier said than done there. Some event schedules out of Tiger Town, as the softball tournament that Clemson's got going on does have some schedule changes. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But first, before we do that, speaking of the Clemson Tiger softball team, they were on the circle. Is that what we're going to say? As they move to 13-6 on the season with a 3-0 victory over Mercer. Here is Coach John Rittman following the victory.
Hey, Tiger fans, good midweek win against Mercer tonight. Had some great performances at the plate from Mackenzie Clark, Maddie Moore, Kaya Keller. Cammie Prayer had a nice hit for us there. And, you know, offensively coming off of a tough weekend against Virginia Tech, you never know what you're going to get. And we're definitely not clicking on all cylinders, but we found a way to win tonight, and that was huge. We got to get ready for a tough weekend with Liberty and Illinois coming to town. I think our pitching staff is continuing to work hard and getting better with every outing. And just looking forward to a really good weekend of softball here at McWhorter Stadium. Go Tigers.
So there you go. John Rittman, again, following Clemson's victory 3-0 over Mercer yesterday. And speaking of this Tiger Invitational, in anticipation of cold weather, they had some changes to the schedule. So the first matchup on Saturday will be played at 9:30 a.m. as Illinois and Liberty will face off. Then at noon, Clemson and Liberty will play. The Tigers will then play Illinois at 2:30. So that's what it looks like on Saturday. Again, 9:30 for Illinois Liberty, 12 for Liberty Clemson, and 2:30 for Illinois and Clemson. Then on Sunday, you'll start at 10 a.m. with Liberty and Illinois. And then you'll have at 12:30 Illinois and Clemson. And then at 3, Liberty and Clemson. So an opportunity for the Tigers to play a couple of games against Liberty and Illinois. Also for Tiger fans to see Liberty and the Illini facing off as well. And again, that schedule has been adjusted. So make note of that in your calendars. Also this weekend, Clemson will take on Northeastern. They are 6-5-1, but 3 of Northeastern's 6 wins came at the behest or at the peril of the North Carolina State Wolfpack. So Clemson, who will enter at 12-0, is ranked 18th by perfect game. Tomorrow's matchups get going as we do, 4 o'clock in the p.m. Saturday, it'll be a 3 o'clock first pitch, and then Sunday's first pitch set for 1 o'clock. You can listen to all those games on ClemsonTigers.com. And I think they are also being broadcast on the ACC Network Extra package. Our good buddy William Qualkenbush, I think, is going to be on the call on Friday, if my memory serves me correctly on that front. Starting pitchers for the Tigers, Mac Anglin will go on Friday, Nick Hoffman on Saturday, and then on Sunday, Nick Clayton going to be there. So Mac, Nick, and Nick. I don't know if that's a Mac and Nick squared. That sounds like some kind of music group from back in the day. All of those guys right-handed pitchers, and it'll be all righties all weekend. Cam Schletter for Northeastern, Sebastian Keene for Northeastern on Saturday, and then Wyatt Scotty on Sunday, or Scotty maybe, on Sunday for Northeastern. Clemson now has a 9-0 home record, and they are averaging 9.3 runs per game, batting .296 on the season with a .454 slugging percentage. So the Tigers getting set to take on Northeastern, and this is also the first time that these two teams have ever faced off. So as a matter of fact, Northeastern is a team that when we were putting in the schedules over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com, we actually had to build the team. They weren't already in the system. Let me tell you, there are a lot of teams in the system. And so when you're going in, you're going, hold up, wait, Northeastern State, no. Northwestern, no. Oh, Northeastern. Yeah, there we go. That's the one you're looking for. So we had to actually build them. Again, first pitch Friday, tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Saturday, 3 p.m., Sunday, 1 p.m., the 3-game series between Clemson and Northeastern. But it does feel a little bit like a measuring stick as Northeastern swept NC State. The Tigers will face NC State April 1st through April 3rd. So a little bit, I mean, I know it's not a, it's not a math problem, right? Like A plus B equals C or whatever. It's nothing like that. I mean, there's certainly some disconnect, from that standpoint of it being a realistic equation, but you do kind of feel a little bit like that. You do kind of feel like, okay, If you go out and sweep this team, you'll be more confident, I think, going in against NC State versus if you lose all 3 to them and you go, well, we don't really know anything. We don't know much about ourselves. What have we learned? And so that, I think, is a big difference. So, again, good luck to the Tigers tomorrow as they get underway as we do tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Until 4 o'clock tomorrow. As always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!